What are your memories when the Jackson 5 burst onto the scene?
It was love because I was born a year ahead of Michael, so we're the same generation. And I too had my big afro, like all the Jacksons. And the way I remember it, just around my block, the girls, every girl didn't especially like Michael. I mean, it was like the Beatles. You had your pick. I know a lot of girls like Jermaine. But, I love Michael, and I thought that the girls would like me too, because I had an afro, like, big afro like Michael, and sometimes they said, "You look like Michael." Growing up in Brooklyn, New York, and I remember seeing him at various shows at Madison Square Garden, and it's a big loss. Ed Sullivan, I'm talking about in personal, but had all the albums, all the 45s, and we just grew up together.
They had huge hits from that very first album. I'll Be There, Stop the Love You Save, ABC.
Right. People don't remember the cartoon. Had the snake and the monkey in that. So Michael's thing with animals was developed, way back there. I remember seeing that film Willard, and at the time I'm like, why are you singing this love song to a rat? But huge loss.
He was in many ways the soundtrack to our lives, because I'm just a year older than you are. Mm-hmm. Do you remember do you have memories of what you were doing when those songs were so huge? Like, I Want You Back and ABC and The Love You Save?
I was watching Soul Train, every Saturday morning, and it'd be extra special when Don Cornelius would have the Jackson 5 as a guest. And it was just to see this African American family together, working hard, successful, and they were all good-looking guys too. It was just a wonderful story.
The Jackson 5 didn't just appeal to African American kids like yourself.
Right. No, they were. I remember something. When the Jackson 5 were hitting, and then the Osmonds come. What was that song? One Bad Apple. We like, wait a minute.
Don't spoil the whole bunch, girl. Give me one more chance before you give up on love.
I was like, wait a minute. How the Osmonds get in here? And then they were biting the same dance moves. I said, wait a minute. I mean, I'm not hating on Donnie or Marie, but that was suspect. That was really suspect.
What about when Michael Jackson went solo and he kind of captivated the whole country with his dancing, with his singing?
Well, I would think that he was groomed for that. I mean, I read most recently that he said he wasn't, but when you have a group, there's going to be a standout. And Michael was the youngest, and you could say he was the cutest and the most talented, and I mean, Tito was not going to be the lead of the group. No disrespect, Tito. So that's just the way it is. And the way, we were talking about with somebody the other day, I definitely think that talent comes from God, Allah, whatever you want to call it. And when you get those supernatural doses of talent, you get other stuff too. And it's a bargain. I mean, it's like I wouldn't say the bargain, but it's a deal. You're not gonna have all the super talent and then have no issues in the rest of your life. We can go through Mozart and Miles Davis, and we go down the line, Jimi Hendrix, Elvis. People with that much talent, they're not going to be normal. And it really pains me now, Katie, to see what they're doing to Michael, and I'm not saying that you represent all the media today, but for me, I'm not even dealing with that. I'm celebrating his legacy, which is his music. And last night we had a party here in New York, and the entire night we played music of the Jacksons, the Jackson 5 and Michael. It was like we went to the church of Michael Jackson last night. We were all testifying. And when Q-Tip was the DJ, when he put on Wanna Be Starting Something, people lost their minds. People lost their mind, and it felt so good. And for me, I hope people remember the joy, the love, entertainment that Michael brought to their lives, because that's going to be his legacy. You know, people focus on other stuff if they want to, but for me, it's his music. It's his music.
You are a year older
Right.
than Michael Jackson, so you really did grow up
Exactly.
with him.
Mm-hmm.
When he went solo and he did Billie Jean and I guess first when he went solo with Off the Wall,
Off the Wall.
and then with Thriller, and then with Bad, right?
Bad.
I mean, what was that like for you to witness that transformation that he went through? I mean, he grew up right before your eyes.
What do you mean by transformation?
Well, he became, this incredibly.
Well, he went through other transformations too.
But we're not going to talk about
No,
those
not
yet.
today. Yet.
or maybe not at all. But what I'm trying to get from you, Spike, is
Right.
You're talking about how you're this little boy with an afro, hoping girls would have a crush on you like they did on Michael Jackson
True
when you were
story.
little.
Right.
So you must have been 9 or 10 around that
I was
time,
born
right?
57.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and then he became a young man,
Right.
and he went out on his own, and he was unbelievable then as well. Take me back to that time for you personally.
Brooklyn didn't have cable TV back then. Manhattan got it first, and so that Billie Jean video, the Thriller video directed by John Landis. I mean, he was doing stuff that was no one ever done before. And I think that when people talk about the greats, whether it be in music or sports, for me, the greatest ones are the ones that changed the landscape, like game changer. And Michael changed everything. And I was like, this stuff's, amazing. And Quincy Jones has to be given a lot of credit because he brought, the production on Thriller and Off the Wall. Let me tell you a story real quick. Sunday, I went to the Apple store right here at 57th Street with one of those Apple jeans. I said, look, I just bought this iPod. I want one of you guys to put in my iPod every single recording of the Jackson 5, the Jacksons, and Michael Jackson as an artist. So it took him 6 hours to download my iPod, and that's all I've been listening to. And people think about, that party last night, it was 3 hours. And it was hit. What other artists can you play that music and dance to for 3 hours and it's hit after hit? It's crazy. He's prolific. And, people want to compare stuff, but who else is doing it 6 years old?
Let me ask you about Michael Jackson and race, because you're in a good position to comment on this, Spike. Mm-hmm. How do you think he changed people's impressions of race in this country? There's been a lot of discussion about that, but then I think, well, what about the Supremes? What about the Four Tops?
Well, Motown, definitely, under the genes of Berry Gordy. That was his thing. Motown was the sound of Young America. And Young America meant crossover. That's why they went to polishing school and learn how to enunciate, do like stuff, so they would appeal to white America, and the Jacksons came up through that system. But Michael took it to the stratosphere.
How did he change people's perception of race, do you think?
Well, here's my thing. I think that sometimes, in fact, there's a scene in Do the Right Thing between me and John Turturro where we talk about this. In this scene in the film, Pino's a racist, but his favorite people are Michael, at the time, Michael Jordan, Prince, and Eddie Murphy. I said, you hate black people. Why is that your face? Well, they're more than black. So there's a tendency when African Americans cross over, they're considered colorless. A Will Smith, a Oprah Winfrey, a Michael Jackson. Like they're like, as John Turturro said, his character said in the film Do the Right Thing, they're not black. They're more than black. And for me, that's kind of sad, because I think that we could still strive to be crossover in whatever field you're talking about without losing your sense of self, who you are. But black folks have gotten very territorial about, and I'm not to sit here in this chair across from you see I'm a spokesperson, but black folks have become very territorial about Michael. And I read something the other day where this guy was on a bus in the South somewhere, and the bus driver was talking some mess, and this guy took out a knife and stabbed him. I'm not saying that's a good thing to do, but this is a bad time to batten off Michael around some black folks, because the matter of what we had our issues with him, that stuff is over, you know. And I work with Mike, and before we worked together, I had some kind of questions, but he was a down brother. I mean, let's make no mistake. Michael never forgot who he was, where he came from, and the history of African Americans in this country, especially the music business. That's unquestionable, despite the appearance and all the other stuff.
I was going to ask you about that, Spike, because it is so, you know, for somebody who didn't really know him, the fact that he tried to have this transformation and he bleached his skin and he became less black as he got older. I mean, did the African American community have a bit of an uneasy relationship with all of that?
Yeah, but that's all forgotten now. We back to our bosom. We love Michael dearly. In fact, I know I'm getting ready to go up to the Apollo now. There's going to be a memorial in a very...
Are they telling us to stop?
No, I'm just saying very soon.
Okay.
But
I'm almost done.
It's a huge loss. Huge loss.
How big a star was Michael Jackson How big a star was Michael Jackson at his height?
Well, you could say, along with Muhammad Ali, one or two people who was known worldwide, globally. And watching the news, it was amazing to see these impromptu memorials or dance-a-thons, or whatever you call them, all four corners of the earth, celebrating this man's life. And they celebrated by listening to his music. And I don't want to harp on it, but that's what the legacy is, his music.
And where's all the other stuff? Where do people put that? Obviously,
it's
his
there,
singing
but
and dancing.
I'm not. Singing and dancing.
No. Obviously, his singing and dancing
The
is
complete
what people.
package.
But there are a lot of weird sides to Michael Jackson. Where do people put that in their legacy department?
Yeah, but weren't those exceptions made for Elvis? I mean, we could. Bob Dylan, you come on. But I think that they're artists. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. They were normal. If they were just normal human beings, they wouldn't be the great artists that they are. I believe that.
I had one other question and then I just forgot it. Hold on, Spike. What was it?
It's all right. I got a good story.
Oh, you do? Okay, go ahead.
my wife, Tanya Lewis Lee, was pregnant with our second child, and he would just not come. And so, this is when we lived in Soho. So she walked to Tower Records, which then was on the corner of Broadway and East 3rd Street. And she bought the Jackson 5's greatest hits. Came back to our loft in Soho, West Broadway in spring, put that CD in, and danced like crazy. The greatest hits of the Jackson 5, and my son arrived the next day. True story. His name was Jackson too. Not after Michael Jackson. That's our similar family names.
That's
True
funny.
story. The Jackson 5 brought him in because he did not want to come out.
I remember what I was going to ask you. You know, a lot of people say there will never be another star like Michael Jackson, not only because of his talent, but because of the media today, because everything is so fragmented.
Katie, I really try to... How can you say never? They said that, you know, Babe Ruth is never going to be better than Babe Ruth. And, you know, and there might be somebody even better than Michael Jordan. We don't know that. And so I really try to stay out of this conjecture or hypothetical thing. I mean...
I guess it's less about talent, more about kind of a national experience of watching kind of a cultural phenomenon sort of
a lot of
reveal
stuff does
itself.
happen,
You know what I mean?
When you were born in 1958 was the right time for Kathleen and Joe Jackson to have their son in Gary, Indiana, named Michael Joseph Jackson. I mean, you can't, when you look at his life, I don't think that it's coincidence that stuff happened. I mean, this thing was, too many things happen for that just to be a coincidence. It's just things called life, and he was brilliant. He shined brightly while I was here. You know, I'm 52. As I said before, a year older than him, and now, as you know personally, you know, you can go in a minute. There's nothing guaranteed. Just like that, and you're out of here. So, and it's amazing because I love Michael Jackson, and I went to my iPod, the first one, and I only had Off the Wall on it. That's why I had to go to the App Store and get the whole catalog. I love him, but why was it that I only had Off the Wall on my iPod?
What's your favorite Michael Jackson song?
I'll Be There, ABC, Want Me Starting Something, Thriller.
I said your
Can
favorite.
You feel it? How can you just name one? The man had a catalog. He took up how many gigabytes on my whole iPod? I got nothing left. There's no space left.
I think that's great. I think we're good. Is there any? I'm trying to think because we have kind of the rundown of his life coinciding with your life, and there really wasn't a big hit. How long has it been, Spike, since Michael Jackson has had a big hit? It's been what? 25
I can
years?
say something.
Because I mean, so you.
Here's the thing that I've read. Now, Michael never told me this, but I feel sorry for him in this case because if it's true, he was trying to duplicate Thriller. And everything short of that he felt was a failure. And for me, as an artist, that's suicide because you just gotta, there's so many things that happen to make Thriller the greatest selling album of all time. And so he could have done an album that was even better. But for whatever reason, it's not gonna sell as much. So I just hope that's not true, that he felt that everything short of
50 million records.
Domestically is not up to it. That's, as an artist, you just gotta do the best you can, Because so many things out of your hand, whether they market your film or your record or the economy, and it's out of your hand. You just got to do the best you can, and praise God with the talent that you're given.
And you met him 6 years ago. You worked on a video together.
Yeah, Michael called me up. I thought I was an imposter. It's me, Spike. It's easy to impersonate Michael. And he said, I want you to do a video for me. I said, fine. I said, we want to meet. He said, I'll come to New York. I said, where you want to meet in New York? He says, I'll come to your house. I said, I live in Brooklyn. Fort Greene, Brooklyn. And he said, I'll come to Fort Greene, Brooklyn. And he came to my house. He rubbed my daughter's head. We still tease about that. He gave my wife a kiss, and then they left us, me and Michael, in my living room, and he brought the new CD, History. And he said, Spike, pick a song. So we listened to the whole thing, and I picked the song Stranger in Moscow. And he said, you can't have that one. I said, Michael, why you want to let me choose if I don't have a choice? He said, all right, I want you to do it. They don't really care about us. And that's the one we did. We did 2 versions. We shot one version here in New York, and they went to Brazil to shoot the other. That's the one that's mostly seen. We shot that in Bahia and Rio de Janeiro, and it was one of the highlights of my professional career, taking Michael to Brazil to do that video.
And when you watch that video, what do you think?
I mean, I've never been around a person that has, when people just lose their mind, just spaz out, or they shake hands, they just collapse and start twitching and stuff like that, and just hysterical. And then at the same time I was thinking, what kind of effect does that have on Michael? To know that if you just say hello to somebody, they're gonna flip out and I'll never wash my hand again, that type of stuff. And I said, thank God it's him and not me, because I would never want that for me.
Do you think that did him in, that just superstardom?
Well, I don't want to sit here in this couch across from UK and conjecture what it was. But as we said before we started taping, childhood has such an impact on who adults grow up to be. And whatever happened growing up as a child, he's always said you didn't have a childhood. So,
that leaves scars.
It leaves scars. It leaves scars, and as a parent, it makes you try to be extra sensitive to your own kids.